President Trump's visit to the Gulf states in May 2025 marked a significant moment in the relationship between the U.S. and its Arab allies. Both sides came to the table with distinct objectives. The Gulf states, particularly Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE, sought to deepen their ties with the U.S. beyond the traditional oil-for-security paradigm. They aimed to showcase their economic diversification efforts, attract foreign investment, and regain favor with the U.S. administration. Trump, on the other hand, arrived with an America First agenda, prioritizing massive trade deals and highlighting his administration's accomplishments. The visit resulted in a flurry of agreements, signaling a new chapter in Gulf-U.S. relations. However, it also exposed lingering concerns and unmet expectations on both sides. The visit highlighted the evolving dynamics of a region grappling with economic transformation, security threats, and the shifting sands of global power. The visit took place against a backdrop of heightened regional tensions. The Iran nuclear deal remained a point of contention. The Syrian civil war continued to rage, albeit with a diminished U.S. role. And the rivalry between Saudi Arabia and Iran cast a long shadow over the region. Amid these challenges, both the U.S. and the Gulf states recognized the need for closer cooperation. For Saudi Arabia, the visit reaffirmed its position as a key U.S. ally. The kingdom secured arms deals worth nearly $142 billion. This was the largest arms deal in history, underscoring deep security ties. Saudi Arabia aimed to attract U.S. investment in its Vision 2030 plan. Trump pledged $600 billion in U.S. investments in various sectors. This signaled a willingness to engage with Saudi Arabia as a strategic partner. The visit also brought a major diplomatic victory for Saudi Arabia. Trump's meeting with Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa marked a significant shift in U.S. policy. This was seen as a win for Saudi Arabia, advocating for a political solution in Syria. The détente opened doors for Saudi investment in Syria's reconstruction. Qatar, often at odds with its Gulf neighbors, used Trump's visit to strengthen its relationship with the U.S. The visit marked the first time a sitting U.S. president had paid an official state visit to Qatar. This was a symbolic victory for the small but wealthy nation which had faced accusations of supporting terrorism. Qatar secured a $96 billion deal with Boeing for advanced aircraft, including the 777X and the 787 Dreamliner. This deal was a boon for the U.S. aerospace industry and signaled Qatar's commitment to modernizing its air force. Beyond economic agreements, Qatar sought and received security assurances from Trump. The U.S. president pledged to support Qatar against external threats, particularly from Iran. This was crucial for Qatar, which has been at odds with Iran over maritime security and regional conflicts. Perhaps the most controversial aspect was Qatar gifting a Boeing 747-8 jet for use as Air Force One. This lavish gift raised eyebrows, with some accusing Qatar of attempting to buy influence within the Trump administration. The UAE, known for its ambitious economic diversification strategy, used Trump's visit to further its goals of becoming a global hub for technology and innovation. A key outcome of the visit was the announcement of a partnership between the UAE and the U.S. to build a 5-gigawatt AI data center complex in Abu Dhabi. This ambitious project aimed to position the UAE at the forefront of the burgeoning field of artificial intelligence. The partnership signaled a convergence of interests between the two countries, with the U.S. seeking to maintain its technological edge in the face of competition from China, and the UAE eager to attract foreign expertise and investment in cutting-edge technologies. In addition to the AI data center, the UAE sought to secure greater access to advanced U.S. microchips, crucial components for AI development and other high-tech industries. While a final agreement was not reached during Trump's visit, preliminary discussions indicated a potential easing of import restrictions on these sought-after chips. This would be a significant win for the UAE, allowing it to accelerate its technological development and reduce its reliance on other global players like China for critical components. The U.S.-Syria détente, a surprising development during Trump's Gulf visit, had significant implications for the region and particularly for the Gulf states. For Saudi Arabia, the détente represented a major diplomatic victory. Riyadh had long seen the Assad regime as a counterweight to Iranian influence in Syria and had advocated for a political solution to the conflict. The lifting of sanctions on Syria opened up the possibility of Saudi investment in the country's reconstruction, giving Riyadh a say in shaping Syria's future. This was seen as a strategic win for Saudi Arabia, allowing it to counter Iranian influence and potentially reintegrate Syria into the Arab fold. The UAE, while less vocal than Saudi Arabia on the Syrian issue, also stood to benefit from the détente. The UAE had been cautiously re-engaging with the Assad regime in the months leading up to Trump's visit, reopening its embassy in Damascus and exploring economic opportunities. The U.S. decision to lift sanctions further legitimized this approach, and paved the way for increased Emirati investment in Syria, unmet expectations and lingering concerns. While Trump's visit resulted in a flurry of deals and diplomatic breakthroughs, it also exposed unmet expectations and lingering concerns on both sides. Saudi Arabia, despite securing massive arms deals and investment commitments, failed to secure a formal security agreement with the U.S. Talks on a potential agreement, which would have enshrined U.S. security guarantees to the kingdom, reportedly stalled over disagreements on the level of commitment and the scope of U.S. involvement in regional conflicts. This fell short of Riyadh's ambition for a formalized security pact akin to NATO, leaving some in Saudi Arabia questioning the depth of U.S. commitment to their security. Similarly, discussions on a potential civilian nuclear program cooperation between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia hit a roadblock. Concerns over uranium enrichment and the potential for misuse of nuclear technology reportedly hampered progress on this front. This was a setback for Riyadh, which had hoped to secure U.S. assistance in developing its civilian nuclear capabilities, ostensibly for energy purposes. Despite the outward displays of friendship and cooperation, Trump's visit could not entirely erase the shadow of past tensions in U.S. Gulf relations. The legacy of the Obama administration's nuclear deal with Iran continued to cast a long shadow. Many Gulf states remained skeptical of the deal, which they saw as emboldening Iran and jeopardizing regional security. Trump's withdrawal from the deal in 2018 had been welcomed by the Gulf states, but the lack of a clear alternative strategy to contain Iran continued to be a source of anxiety. Furthermore, human rights issues continued to be a point of contention in U.S. Gulf relations. The murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in 2018 had strained U.S.-Saudi ties, with international pressure mounting on the Trump administration to hold Saudi Arabia accountable. While Trump had resisted calls to punish Saudi Arabia, the incident highlighted the inherent tension between U.S. values and its strategic interests in the region. The economic dimension, beyond oil and arms. Trump's visit underscored the evolving economic relationship between the U.S. and the Gulf states. While oil remained a key pillar of this relationship, the visit highlighted the Gulf states' efforts to diversify their economies and attract foreign investment in sectors beyond energy. The massive deals signed during the visit, spanning infrastructure, technology, and aerospace, reflected this shift. The Gulf states were no longer content to be simply suppliers of oil to the world. They aspired to become key players in the global economy, leveraging their vast wealth to invest in cutting-edge technologies, develop their human capital, and create knowledge-based economies. The U.S., for its part, recognized the economic potential of the Gulf states. The Trump administration saw the region as a lucrative market for U.S. goods and services, as well as a source of investment in the U.S. economy. The visit was as much about promoting U.S. businesses and securing economic benefits for American companies as it was about strengthening strategic ties. The long view, a shifting global landscape. Trump's visit to the Gulf states in 2025 took place against the backdrop of a shifting global landscape. The rise of China as a global power presented both challenges and opportunities for the U.S. and its Gulf allies. China's growing economic clout and its ambitions for regional influence were reshaping the geopolitical dynamics of the Middle East. The Gulf states, situated at the crossroads of global trade routes and possessing vast energy reserves, found themselves being courted by both the U.S. and China. This competition forced the U.S. to reassess its approach to the region, moving beyond the traditional transactional relationship based on oil and security towards a more comprehensive partnership that encompassed economic, technological, and diplomatic cooperation. The U.S.-Syria détente, while primarily driven by regional considerations, also had implications for the broader U.S.-China rivalry. By easing sanctions on Syria, the U.S. risked creating an opening for China to increase its influence in the country, potentially undermining U.S. interests in the long run. This highlighted the complexities of navigating a multipolar world where regional dynamics and global power struggles were increasingly intertwined.